It is Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. We will be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics and trying to stay warm while we do so. It's nice and warm inside, David, not so much out there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've already had one glass of tea already. I'm sure there'll be several more by the time we get home tonight after some chilly Thursday night football with Halloween tomorrow. So we're going to be doing double duty the next couple of nights. But yeah, it's that time of the year. It's football weather, and it's fitting that I'll be in the Bear Den tonight. That just fits cold weather and some good football as well. So I'm excited about all that.
Absolutely does. I'm not real fired up about this football weather stuff, but I mean, it's been well noted on these airwaves over the past few years. I am not a fan of the cold, but we're going to get out and brave it. And like you said, a little double duty this week. A lot of Thursday night ball games. We'll be touching on that in the rundown here in a bit, but a lot of Thursday night action here in the final weekend of the regular season. A lot of games with obviously playoff implications, and this is getting to be the fun time of year for some of these teams. The playoffs start tonight, David.
Yeah, I mean, I think the TSSAA sent out a message where over 70% of the games, or maybe 80% of the games, are tonight compared to tomorrow. I know a lot of people probably scheduled that knowing that Halloween is tomorrow, and people want to go celebrate and trick or treat, whatever the kids do nowadays. I only have 2 games on the docket tomorrow. I challenged one of my photographers. He has to wear a costume on the sidelines at Watertown. So I'm holding George Page to that. George, you're on notice. I expect a costume, but yeah, it's the end of the road for some people, but this is really, kind of where it gets started for some and taking on that journey. One team in particular, the Green Hill Hawks, will talk to Coach Crouch here very shortly. He's one of those teams that it's about to hopefully take a long journey, maybe the Finley Stadium in Chattanooga.
Absolutely. In the second hour of the show, we're excited to have as our guest Matt Brown of Extra Points, talking a little college football. Primarily off the field. Matt is more about the business of college athletics and a fantastic resource for that. If you're not familiar with Extra Points, you need to be so. ExtraPointsMB.com and Matt Brown, EP, on Twitter or on X, however you care to refer to it. But he will be our guest around 3:20. Excited to talk to him again about some college football the field. In the next segment, as David mentioned, we will be speaking with Josh Crouch of Green Hill Football. The Hawks traveling from North Mount Juliet to Mount Juliet for the Mayor's Cup tonight. Hawks, Golden Bears, getting after it. And as usual, there's a little something at stake, not just the cup, but we'll be talking more to Coach Crouch about that here in the next segment. We'll be talking a little NBA today. We'll be talking a little MLB today. We will get into some hockey. There's a professional football game tonight of some note, although the records might not necessarily indicate it. Had some college football last night. We'll get into that just a little bit, I guess. And it is Throwback Thursday. At the top of the second hour, we'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer, talking about the Nashville Soccer Club and their MLS playoff matchup with Inter Miami. So check that out at the top of the hour. A lot to get into, a lot of fun to be had here on today's show. And I guess we should probably go ahead and get started with it, David. Let's get into yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Results across the TSSAA Girls Soccer State Tournament down in Chattanooga. Blaine Keller, you can find him on X at SportsBK. He's been down there doing all the coverage for us, the good work at Main Street Preps. Yesterday, it was Merrill High picking up a 7-0 win over Adamsville in Class A. In Division II, it was Baylor knocking off CPA 2-1. Evangelical Christian blanked DCA for their first state tournament trip that ends in the semifinals since 2003. That was 4-0 for Evangelical Christian over DCA. It was Bearden defeating Franklin 2-0. And Liberty Creek and all Sumner County showdown defeats Station Camp 4-1, advances to the state championship on Friday. In college football, as Mo mentioned last night down in Murfreesboro, Jacksonville State defeating MTSU in Conference USA action 24-21. In the NBA, it was the Grizzlies picking up a last-second win over the Phoenix Suns, 114-113. And as we mentioned yesterday, Game 5 of the World Series in the City of Angels at Chavez Ravine, it was the Toronto Blue Jays taking a 3-2 series lead over the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Blue Jays 6-1 winners over the home team in Hollywood.
Let's get into this evening's high school football schedule. One game already decided because it won't be played. We've got coverage of this development both at MainStreetPreps.com and at MainStreetMurray.com. Columbia Academy forfeiting its season finale against Franklin Road Academy goes down as an FRA 1-0 victory there. In actual games that will take place, Summertown goes to Adamsville in a Region 5 2A matchup with playoff implications. As we mentioned, 7 o'clock kickoff there, as are all of these, unless otherwise stated. Grace Christian of Franklin travels to Battleground Academy of Franklin. That's a 7 o'clock start. Hickman County is at Battle Creek. Rockvale goes to Blackman. Harpeth is at Camden Central. Centennial hosts in Hillsborough. Sycamore is at Cheatham County. Father Ryan goes down to Memphis taking on Christian Brothers. It is Cane Ridge at Clarksville. Mount Juliet Christian travels to Clarksville Academy. Clarksville Northwest is at Clarksville Northeast. Clay County is hosting Joe Burns. East Hickman taking on visiting Houston County. East Robertson is at East Nashville. Fairview comes to Waverly. I'm sorry, that's not right. Waverly comes to Fairview. There we go. Wilson Central is at Gallatin. Warren County is at Glencliff. West Creek goes to Greenbrier. Hunters Lane hosts Good Pasture. McGavick is at Overton. Lawson goes down to Lawrence County. Cookville is at Lebanon. Mount Pleasant goes to Loretto. Creekwood is at Marshall County. Spring Hill goes to Montgomery Central. And Richland is at Moore County. I bet the Raiders win that one.
Tonight's 4th annual Mayor's Cup in Mount Juliet is Green Hill taking on Mount Juliet inside the Bear Den. Once again, that is 7 p.m. first kick. I will be on the coverage for that. You can find my social media as well as coverage in the newspaper at the Wilson Post and the Chronicle of Mount Juliet. Tonight in Murfreesboro, it's a battle between Riverdale and Oakland at 7 o'clock. Liberty Creek travels to Pearl Cone here in Nashville, also 7 p.m. David's Academy at Pope John Paul II. Ravenwood hosts Brentwood tonight as well. I believe that game is the TV matchup. Antioch at Rossview in Montgomery County tonight is Laverne traveling to Siegel. Stewart's Creek travels to Smyrna. In a Robertson County and Sumner County rivalry renewed, it is White House traveling to the Nest to take on Springfield. It is Maplewood traveling to Stratford. And the game that Mo will be at tonight, Independence making the trip down to Summit in Spring Hill. NHL action tonight in the city of brotherly love, 6 p.m. puck drop on FanDuel South. It is the Nashville Predators taking on the Philadelphia Flyers in a brief one-game trip away from Bridgestone Arena. Tonight in the National Football League down at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, it is Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens taking on Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. That is a 7:15 kick on Amazon Prime. You can find that one with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on the call. Ladies and gentlemen, those were your scores. That was your long and extensive high school football schedule, and that concludes today's rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. As we just mentioned in the rundown, the Grizzlies picking up a win in the second of after losing at Golden State. They picked up a 114-113 jumper with about 8 seconds to play 7.6 actually again for that 114-113 road win over the Suns. Morant finishing with 28 in that one. The sixth straight victory for Memphis against the Suns. Nice little victory. That's on the road.
Yeah, you take them, especially in the Western Conference. Obviously, Phoenix has made kind of some changes this offseason, obviously shifting Kevin Durant down to Houston. But nonetheless, the Western Conference, it feels like it's going to be one of those years, once again, where everybody's kind of even, kind of competitive towards that play-in spot, that 6, 7, 8 range, not 8, 9, 10. So the Grizzlies off to a good start. I believe they're 3-2 in their first 5 games. So kind of treading water, taking care of business. It's not easy playing on the road in the Western Conference. We saw that. I believe they lost to the Warriors on this road swing, I believe, 131-118 at the Chase Center in the Bay. I texted some trash, Wade, or not Mo, to Wade, about my Spurs. They're off to a 4-0 start with Wemby playing like an MVP. They play the Heat tonight. So it's good, though, when, the Grizzlies are good as well. Obviously, they were the 8th seed last year, got put out in the first round of the playoffs to the eventual NBA Finals champion Oklahoma City Thunder. But, Ja Morant is still a superstar, and he plays like it, and he had a moment last night where he showed you he's still that guy.
Absolutely. Ja finishing again with 28 in that win. Triple J with 18. Santi Aldama, 14 points, 10 boards, and 5 assists off the bench. So yeah, they are off to a 3-2 start. Ja with 18 in the second half, also 8 boards, 7 feeds in the win for Memphis. And again, yeah, they are 3-2 right now, just kind of treading water. Got off to a they won 2 of their first 3 at the FedEx Forum. They've split these 2 with Golden State and Phoenix on the road, headed back to Memphis here this weekend. So again, nice win, late win. Phoenix was down by as much as 10, rallied back, but it turns out they lose their 4th straight after winning their season opener. And again, Memphis has beaten Phoenix in each of the last 6 meetings between the two. So
yeah. I was going to say, I was interested to see just how Memphis would get off to their start to their season offensively. Obviously, they shipped off Desmond Bane to Orlando this offseason. Obviously, Desmond Bane was a really good scorer for them, both from, the mid-range and from three-point line. And scoring points hasn't been their problem. They've been over 100, I believe, in every single game. Not necessarily defense maybe has been lacking a little bit. But offensively, I guess that you can say they're entertaining and they're putting points on the board and they're making it a track meet.
Well, and maybe the defense will come. They're still transitioning under a new coach and that kind of thing, and that they can't give up those kind of points every night and go right down to the wire every night. But they got it done last night, like you said. So 3-2 standings don't mean a whole lot unless you're at the bottom of them, as New Orleans is right now. But Memphis behind San Antonio in the Southwest. The Spurs again at 4-0. Memphis 3-2. Your Kevin Durant Houston Rockets have split their first 4. So Memphis comes back home tomorrow night, taking on the Lakers at the FedEx Forum. Should be another fun one there.
You don't know how much credence you can take into these early matchups. It's a long season. It's 82 games. I don't know if anybody necessarily had the Bulls or the Spurs as undefeated teams through their first 4 games. Now, Oklahoma City 5-0, that's no surprise. I mean, SGA is out of this world. I think he's kind of taken that throne of maybe being the best player in the league right now. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Golden State's looked really good. They're 4-1. I know Jason Tatum is out, obviously, with the injury. I don't think I would have had Boston still as below 500 though. So it's interesting. So we'll see how that goes. Tread water too, with not only Luka out now but LeBron as well.
It's early, like you said. There's you don't want to dig too deep a hole at this point. But other than that, it's early. A lot of folks are figuring a lot of things out, and what the standings look like right now most likely isn't what they'll look like in March. So we will stay tuned across the NBA and particularly in Memphis. let's go ahead and take a break here as we get Throwback Thursday started on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it'll be Coach's Corner, and we will visit with Josh Crouch of the Green Hill Hawks heading into their Mayor's Cup matchup tonight at Mount Juliet. Stick around.
Got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
I'm ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. It is time for Coach's Corner, where we chat with an area coach. Today, that coach is Josh Crouch of the Green Hill Hawks. They are getting ready for their Mayor's Cup matchup with crosstown rival Mount Juliet. Coach Crouch. Hello? Coach?
Right. There he is.
There he is. Yeah. What's going on, Coach?
What's going on, guys? How are y'all?
We're doing well, thanks. Appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, especially with the events of the evening. So with you playing on Thursday, does that mean that you get to go trick-or-treating tomorrow night? Is that the big thing here?
We will be, my son, daughter, and wife will all be local, out and about. So if you've seen a green skeleton in Mount Juliet, just keep minding the business. Keep it moving.
I understand, Coach. Like I said, we appreciate you taking some time with us here with the 7 o'clock kickoff looming on the southern end of Mount Juliet. But, you know, it always seems to mean something when you guys and Mount Juliet step on the field together, and it's not just a Mayor's Cup. I think there's always been a region title at stake when you guys have squared off as well. So, you know, when you get down to week 11, you got something to play for here typically.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to lock that up last week. But you're right. The last 4 weeks or the last 4 years, this game had been for the region title. I think in 21 we were able to secure it with a win against Station Camp. But 22, 23, and 24, all 3 years were for the region title. So, it's I think for this one, it's all the records are out the window. Kids want the bragging right as far as the Mayor Cup goes, and I think they have gotten better every single week. Some of the young guys that have played there started off early with the Lebanon game, but they've got I think four games they've lost by 6 points or less. They have one of those games are in overtime, and they've got 2 wins of 30-point or more within the last 5 weeks. So it's a one possession game in every game. So they're just like I said, I think this game's going to be very competitive, and I think we'll have to play our best game to be able to come out with a victory.
David, I know, is just chomping at the bit to throw some questions at you, Coach. So I'm going to yield to Mr. Wilson here. David, take it away.
Yeah, Coach, you made a really good comment the other day in the press conference over there at CP Between the Lakes, just complimenting Mount Juliet. And you kind of mentioned, when you guys got started over at Green Hill, you didn't have to look very far to find a program that you kind of wanted to build it like in its kind of image. Just kind of elaborate that for the folks that are listening that are just, didn't get a chance to hear that, and just kind of how you guys kind of built this thing from the ground up, not having to look very far.
Yeah, in 2012, I got my first coaching job here in Wilson County at Wilson Central, and we had never beat them while we were there, and I still think that record's going for pretty far. And for us, whenever we were starting at Green Hill, the first thing we had to do was be competitive with Mount Juliet. That was first and foremost on the agenda, is how could we get to be a program of which their caliber and the level of tradition that they've had, and all the success they have had as a Wilson County coach. They were the standard, and that's kind of how we wanted to build it. We wanted to build it with people being proud of it, people wanting to be included into it, wanting to have their sons play for Green Hill, and that was one of the things I was so admiring for what the Perry's done at Mount Juliet High School, even with Roger, is that I felt like everybody in the town wanted to play for Mount Juliet, and started with the youth league. They, the Bears were 6 years old all the way through 12. You went to Mount Juliet Middle, you were a Bear, and then you got a chance to be a high school Bear. And I thought they did a really good job of pairing everything up from 6 years old all the way to, to high school. So our first initial movement was to create a youth league, feel something that the families and kids were connected to, try to get some green over here on this side of the county as early as we could, try to be as open and transparent as possible to allow families to be included. And then we just try to keep the kids at the forefront. If we can produce a good product on Fridays, and we've got kids that feel like they had a great 4 years of high school football, we wanted to be, we wanted to set that standard for those families that were choosing between going to Mount Juliet, Green Hill. We're separated for about 4 or 5 miles, so it's pretty close. But I think we've and even Trey and I spoke about this. We don't know each other's rosters anymore. We don't have kids that were at one school at another year and switched to another school, and so it's more now of us, sustaining and establishing some of those traditions going forward that in the beginning was harder to set forth.
Yeah, you mentioned last week being able to clinch the Region 4-6A title with the win at Wilson Central, second straight region championship for your program and your group. I know you guys are anchored, obviously, by a fantastic senior class that has over 40 players. In particular, you got several college commits, one today. Obviously, Kanan Burrows is the straw that stirs the drink offensively, going to UT Martin. Omeza Daniel on the defensive side going to Army. Just talk about how great that senior class for you is and how they kind of set the standard really for this program and what it looks like moving forward.
Yeah, I think when I think of our kids particularly, they're hard workers. They've kind of reaped everything of their rewards, and success has become a byproduct of their what the book we studied in the off season was called Win in the Dark. And I think when the lights were not on and you've got those 12 months of off season where nobody's really knowing what's going on, I think they kind of rep they've gotten the rewards that they've deserved. So I think the byproduct of the region title is for their hard work. The seniors have led great throughout the year. Ronan McNamara is a 2-time captain for us. He was a center, moved to right guard, so we could get him a little bit more involved in our gap scheme stuff. But Ronan has been as steady of a human that you can possibly have on the line. And then across the board, all 5 of those seniors up front. Wesley Murray actually was in my art class week 1 of his freshman year that I begged him to come out and try football. He never played before, and he turned into a 2-year starter at center for us. And he went from not being able to step up onto a chair to do a push-up, and now he's squatting 300 or 400 pounds and bench pressing 300. So it's good to see the maturation of everybody and the senior class. So I could talk for ages about them. We'll probably never have one that's even relative to the type of success that they've garnered, not only on the football field, but in the classroom as well. And for them, this game would be 3 years of starting football where they had never lost to a Wilson County school in 3 years. So they've got something big to play for tonight. They've got a lot of things for them that they can hang their hats on when they come back to reunions and weddings, when they can talk about some of those things when they get older. So we're hoping that we can send them off right, and we're gonna lead on this, guys, for the playoffs, because Green Hill, one thing that Mount Juliet has done so much better than us is they've won some 6A playoff games, and we've won some 5A playoff games, but we've got to get to that first 6A playoff win for us to really feel like we're establishing ourselves as a program.
Josh Crouch, football coach at Green Hill High School in North Mount Juliet, joining us here on Main Street Sports today on Coach's Corner. And Coach, you mentioned that first 6A playoff victory. Last year you guys went through the schedule undefeated during the regular season, fell in the opening round of the playoffs. And there was, I think, the esteemed Mr. Wilson wrote an article about you all kind of up in the ante during the regular season this time around with the schedule that you put together to try to get yourself ready for postseason play. You guys come into tonight 7-2. How do you feel like? What steps how successful do you think you were, I guess, in trying to upgrade that schedule to get yourself ready for this next few weeks, hopefully?
When you look at the guys that we've played, particularly early in the season, getting a win against Beach week 1 was huge. I think that's the only loss they have garnered so far. And then seeing Page and Ravenwood, although I will say in both of those games, I don't feel like we're overly competitive after the second half. I felt like particularly the Ravenwood game, I think, showed a lot of deficiencies. And some of that stuff goes back to, in your region, when you have those early games that show some things that you struggle at, you're starting to get people see and show that later on down the season that are trying to prepare to beat you. You're starting to get a little copycat stuff with some things that Page and Ravenwood were successful with. So in some point of the scheduling, it's very transparent for us as to what our struggles were early, but our depth, I think, has grown so much in those games. I think, again, I don't feel like good times don't create hard men. So we've been in situations 2 or 3 times where we've had to reach down deep to get a win, to have a 6.5-minute drive against Lebanon, 15-15 or 13-13, whatever it was, out here, and to get the ball with 6 minutes left and take it all the way down to 30 seconds and punch in a score. You don't really do that if you don't feel like you've been pushed a little bit. So, I think the schedule was very intentional. It was something that us as a program were trying to evaluate for us how to get to that next step. And we felt like, that was going to be a necessity for us. Is Blackman was the best team that we had seen all year in week 11 or week 12 of the playoffs last year. By far, best football team we had seen, and I did not want that to be the case again for this year. I wanted to make sure that our kids kind of like studying for the test. We got to find out what we need to know that we don't see in order to correct it.
David mentioned Burrows, and he's been a guy for you almost from the moment he stepped on campus, it seems like. I've been hearing that name for a long time. You know, what is it that you like about him for you? What is it you like about him at the next level?
Yeah, I mean he's a football junkie, man. He watches football all the time. He's up here practicing all the time. He likes to be on the field. He likes to throw. He's always getting our kids out and trying to get extra reps in. So as far as like, you know, work ethic for him, you know, he's got it. He's one of the harder workers in the weight room. He's a kid I think that's going to only get better as college comes around because he's going to have the he's going to have the schedule that's going to allow him to have a little freedom in his preparation. So I think he's going to continue to do better in college. But you know, when we sent Colton Dowell up to UT Martin, I knew what kind of coach Coach Simpson was, and was able to reach out to him, and to have Graham and have Ty doing so successful things at places they're at. You know, I think Cannon's only going to get better being underneath Jason up there for the next 3 or 4 years. But what he does well, man, he's a great runner. He understands the shell of the defense. He understands 2 high, 1 high. He understands, you know, holes in defenses, which one presents the better option. And one of the better things that he does is he's a heck of a runner as well. So he's a true dual threat. And you know, from sophomore year, he started the very first game, and we've rolled with him ever since. So going to be hard to replace Mr. Football caliber type of talent. But you know, I'm excited to have at least 2 more games guaranteed with him.
No. You know, Coach, there are a lot of programs on your campus that have seen a lot of postseason action. How do y'all rub off on each other, do you feel like, especially in such a relatively short period of time? I mean, Green Hill is not a old school by any means.
Right. Well, the hat that I'm currently wearing was given to me by a softball coach. So, you know, for us, we try to, you know, I think all of our head coaches here really work well together. I don't think there's any pride with, you know, which program is which. You know, there's a lot of us that support basketball that come to all the basketball games. You'll see all of our football coaches at softball games. I'll be coaching some flag football for the girls this year. So there's a lot of you know, there's a lot of everybody pulling the same direction as coaches go. So you know, I think we have a great working environment. I think I've learned some things from Savannah. And I'm sure that she's taken some things from other people around in their school building. But when you look at our head coaches, you know, Nate has been under Troy Allen for so long, which is a great high school or basketball coach. You've got Justin, who's been successful in multiple spots in baseball. Savannah has established herself as probably the best high school softball coach, in my opinion, in the area. And if you could watch some softball girls work every day, you would be – they work harder than most football teams. And they're out here doing a finisher right now on the track, and I don't know if half of our guys could finish it. So, you know, we got a good group of coaches, a good group of people that just pull in the same direction. And again, I think winning is a byproduct of good people and good kids.
And Coach, when your kids see the coaches at each other's events like that, does that kind of push them in that same direction?
I think so. I think anytime you have a relationship with, you know, having a transition between programs, or you know, I'm always there trying to cheer on our basketball team and our baseball team as much as possible, just because, you know, we should be pulling for Green Hill. We should all be pulling for the kids. And honestly, you're going to get a lot more people that are going to be multi-sport athletes when you have a relationship with multiple people instead of just sticking with, you know, your kids that you only coach. So we're always trying to, you know, recruit our hallways, quote unquote, but we want to make sure we have the best athletes out. But, you know, if we have a stud that's a heck of a baseball pitcher, I want them to know also that, you know, we're there supporting them, and everyone here is pulling the same direction.
You know, we had Coach Sanders on the show at one time, and I'm pretty sure she's still the leader in the clubhouse as for the best Twitter handle at Swag and Sanders. I'm not sure that we've had too many to top that. So you might have to up your Twitter handle game, Coach, to keep up with Coach Sanders.
Anyway, I'll try to keep up with her when I get a gold ball and a silver ball in the bracket within the first 3 years of coaching.
I understand.
Yeah, Josh, really Josh, really quickly before we let you go, obviously tonight, maybe give us some keys to the game. Obviously, this is probably going to be their Super Bowl. Their season, necessarily will not end in a playoff berth, but it, could solve a lot of things if they have a win over the green team, as Coach Perry would say. So, what's a big key for you guys tonight to make sure the Mayor's Cup stays home for another 365 days?
Yeah, we've turned into a green team for a couple of people around here, which I take that as a compliment. But I think for us tonight, it's going to be they got a heck of a running back. They've got 7 or 8 guys that catch the ball really well. Quarterback is just now getting healthy. He got hurt early on in the year and had a broke ankle, and then has come back and steadily got better every single week. Defensively, I don't think Page, but Beach may have scored the most on them with 28. They haven't given up more than 28, I don't think, all year. And then, like I said, they've been within 2 or 3 points of one play here or there changes the dynamic of the game. Defensively, they scored 3 touchdowns against Wilson Central as a defense. So it's going to be they're very stingy on that side of the ball, and for us, we're gonna have to play our best game. I mean, I know people may look at the records and think that there's an overwhelming side to one or the other, but Mount Juliet Green Hill, I've learned even from 21 when we went in there with 2 seniors and came away with a victory. You can't never count either one of them out during this game. So we're gonna have to play our best. We're gonna have good 3 phases of football. We can't get into the extra stuff that goes along with rivalry games and get some penalties, but we got to go out and play good, clean football and see if we can get ready for trying to knock off a milestone for us for that first round of playoffs.
Josh Crouch, Green Hill football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. The Hawks and the Bears tonight down in Mount Juliet. Coach, good luck. We appreciate you taking some time with us, and good luck to y'all both tonight and through the playoffs.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you, Maurice. Thanks, David. See y'all soon.
All right. Before we wrap up this segment, we need to touch on our weekly awards. Let's start with our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Besides the military, there is no greater team building experience than high school athletics. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game, and our In to Win Life Team of the Week is the Class 3A state champion Summit Lady Spartans volleyball team. As producer Mark pointed out, they were our team of the week a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, but they weren't state champions then. They are now. Again, Summit winning its first state championship in volleyball in its first state tournament appearance. The Lady Spartans defeated Siegel, they defeated Science Hill, and they defeated county rival Brentwood, going 5 sets with the Lady Bruins to win that one in what was a hotly contested series all year. The 2 split during the regular season. Summit won the district championship against Brentwood. Brentwood won the region championship against Summit, and Summit prevailed when it mattered most. So congratulations to the Summit Lady Spartans and to Coach Warren Riker, their first volleyball state championship. Our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week, Summer Riley, had a heck of a week last week. 6 goals in 3 postseason games. She scored the game-tying and game-winning goals in a region semifinal matchup down at Franklin County. She scored the only goal in an overtime loss at Franklin, and then she had a hat trick in the Lady Spartans 3-2 win at Hendersonville that pushed them into the state tournament, their first state tournament appearance as well. So again, congratulations to Summit Riley, the Summer Riley of Summit High School, our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. And again, congratulations to the Summit volleyball team, our In to Win Life from Custom Stone Handlers Team of the Week. Let's take a break here as we continue Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports today. At the top of the hour, we'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation we had with VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer, talking a little Nashville Soccer Club. But when we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
all new sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. Trey, you savage. That's how you say it. It's just like it's spelled. And
He pitched like a savage last night.
he absolutely pitched like a savage. And some folks are going to need to get familiar with that name. The rookie, 12 strikeouts, most by a rookie in a World Series game. Is that the trivia bit there? I think
I know they
yeah.
flashed a graphic that was saying that I think 11 was the first since like 1940 something, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
his journey, while you're looking, I'll spoil you some time.
No,
His
you're right.
journey, I mean, he was a first round draft pick last summer. And just to think of his ascent, I mean, they talked about it on the broadcast. He was pitching in front of against the Jupiter Hammerheads in front of 300 people months ago, and now he's pitching at Dodger Stadium in the World Series to send Toronto back to the Rogers Center with a 3-2 lead. His ascent, phenomenal. They talked about it on the broadcast. And I mean, Mo, you've been around the game, and as a former player, I don't think people realize just how tall he is and the tonal coming down of his extension. The way that splitter plays for him, I mean, you saw the Dodgers could not touch his splitter, especially those lefties. So he's got it working, and how he fell. See, baseball drafts are so funny. He wasn't a top 10 pick, and to think that this dude is just dominating the playoffs. Man, it just shows you that baseball, it's all about development and making sure you're getting around the right people.
Yeah. Pitched at every level of professional baseball this season.
Nuts.
From low A to the World Series. It's crazy. And like you said, he broke the record by a rookie in a World Series game of 11 strikeouts set by Don Newcomb of the 1949 Brooklyn Dodgers. Anytime you're being mentioned with a record that's however old 1949 is, what's that, 75 years, 76 years, that's pretty crazy. And when you're being mentioned with a great like Don Newcomb, that's some pretty high cotton. And again, this guy, his next opening day will be his first opening day in the majors, presuming that he's going to make the Blue Jays roster out of spring training next spring.
I hope so.
Yeah, you'd like to think.
I would say this, and to add on to Trey Savage, and I think Derek Jeter made a really good point when I was watching the post game yesterday. Maybe the benefit of being a rookie and pitching against the Hammerheads in low A ball in the Florida State League this summer, you know, maybe it helped him in the sense that he hasn't really had a chance to soak it all in yet. He's just been on this ascent where he hasn't had to necessarily get nervous and look around at the bright lights and things of that nature. He's just been on a roll, and there's a picture of him maybe pitching in spring training or, you know, in their complex league. But, like, you know, he hasn't had a chance to think about it and get starry-eyed, if that makes sense. He's been so focused and drilled in. He probably doesn't even know the magnitude of what he's doing. He'll have the next couple weeks and months to maybe, you know, digest it all, but he's been on a miraculous climb, and they've needed every pitcher that he's had.
Yeah, and you know, that's kind of double-sided though, David, because while you say that maybe he hadn't necessarily had a chance to take it all in, I think the flip side of that is, you know, you hear so many baseball players talk about that second deck that you don't have at the AAA level or at the AA level. You know, it would be easy to come out there and look around, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, look at all these people, you know, and that hasn't necessarily been the case for him. Also, you know, even in this day of so much information and that kind of thing, I wonder how much he's been able to, you know, relatively sneak up on folks just because I'm not sure how much of a scouting report there is necessarily on him. And to your point, no matter how much of a scouting report there is, sometimes it doesn't matter until you actually see it. And you see that almost dead overhand delivery of his, and, you know, the height and that kind of thing. And his pitches probably do some things that a lot of guys that don't have his frame and stature don't do.
Yeah. I mean, we can have a hitters meeting and you can say, hey, you know, on this scenario, or this is his best pitch, he's going to look to get you on that splitter. He's going to tunnel it in that same, you know, arm angle, as you mentioned, with the slider. But until I see the splitter and I see the slider, and let's not forget, I mean, he's pumping a mid-90s fastball in there, by the way, that you're giving me a lot of ground to cover. And so, you know, I still think pitching always has the advantage. You know, I think they do. And, you know, with him being a rookie, as you mentioned, you know, he was able to maybe the Dodgers probably did not see him until that game one of the World Series. I'd never seen him before. And then this was a short turnaround for them to make adjustments. They're looking at film, but, you know, pitchers adjust too, just like hitters. So I don't necessarily know what patterns may have changed from that game one start to game five. But he was on yesterday, and you could tell. And Jeter mentioned this once again on the broadcast last night. First batter of the game was Ohtani. Hits a comebacker to the mound. He kind of bobbles it, but he was really cool and calm and collected about regathering it and tossing it to first base. And Jeter said you could tell right there that the moment wasn't too big for him. That second deck, quote unquote, and those bright lights had not kind of lured him in, and he didn't rush the ball to first base. So give him credit. And then obviously the Blue Jays offense jumped on Blake Snell 2 pitches into the game, 2-0 lead. But I think that also helped. And having a lead and going out there is huge for a young pitcher.
Oh, absolutely. The Dodgers have to be a little shook. The back-to-back home runs on 2 pitch. Blake Snell, who had been lights out throughout the postseason. So all of a sudden, Toronto is 1 win away from the World Series, where both teams have won others park at this point, but Toronto going home for the next 2 on Friday and possibly Saturday. So this was, and when I say us, I mean me, so many of us just thought that this was just a matter of time before there was a Dodger back-to-back coronation, and obviously Toronto jumping in here as Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
These next 2, if it is 2 more.
You know, and that's the thing, is we talked about it yesterday, Calvin and I. You know, I wouldn't necessarily, you know, I know the Dodgers are probably the quote-unquote favorite for Vegas, and obviously for those of us that watch baseball, they are the favorite. But, you know, this is a Blue Jay team that is not an underdog by any means. They have a lot of great players, both offensively in that pitching staff as well. I think about just all the things that they have overcome just in this postseason. Think about it. They lost the first 2 games in their home park in the AL Championship Series against Seattle. They were down 3-2 in that series going back to Toronto, had to win 2 games in a row at the Rogers Center just to get to the World Series. We talked about it, that they went through a lull during the regular season like most teams do, where we thought that maybe they would not, make necessarily a deep playoff run, and here they are. Think about it. They've done this with Bo Bichette being very much limited. George Springer didn't play yesterday. So they have found ways to win, and it's been some unlikely names. And then, I mean, let's give Vladdy credit, man. He was hitting over 400 in the postseason going into yesterday with 7 home runs. Hits a home run on the first pitch he sees, or really, excuse me, the first at bat he has. And he's just been on a tear, and he's your likely maybe World Series MVP if they finish things off.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a guy that you would have expected to be discussing in World Series MVP terms has not been that. And you hate it for a local favorite. Mookie Betts is hitting 130 in the series, in the playoffs, 3 singles in the series, 1 run scored, and said after last night's game, "I've just been terrible." And that's tough. That's tough to hear. It's tough that he's in the position to feel that way, but it's been a struggle. I've had the conversation with a few folks. I don't know if it's shortstop that's taking a toll on him, but it's his regular season wasn't great, and the postseason has been worse.
Yeah. John Smoltz made a point yesterday on his first at bat that Mookie's been very, passive per se on first pitches in the zone, not being aggressive and not swinging. Then right there, Savage pumps in a fastball right down the middle, his first bat take, and then Mookie chases 2 pitches out of the zone on sliders, and it's strike 3. He's back to the dugout in 3 pitches. So, would like to see him be more aggressive. Hunt that first pitch fastball and jump on it. We're used to Mookie making these great plays, both offensively and defensively in these moments, and it just hasn't happened this year. And, with a team that has Ohtani and Freeman, they're able to, maybe counteract that, because they have so many great players, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith. But, man, he has not had the Mookie Betts caliber season that we would have thought of.
No, not at all. And again, I wonder if, Mookie's a fantastic athlete. And if you ask him to go behind the plate, I think he'd find a way to get it done. But I said this when it happened a couple of years ago, I don't know if the Dodgers haven't done him a disservice by moving him to shortstop, because it's obviously a demanding position defensively. And I don't know if that's taken away from his offense or what the situation is, or if he's just having a down year. But, maybe we're reading too much into it. Guys do have off years. But he is, if that's the case, he's certainly having one.
Yeah. I texted that to you last night, and you said you've had this conversation with several people. It just kind of hit me yesterday. Shortstop's a demanding position. For most teams, aka the Braves this past year, it's a defensive first position. And so to ask him to, hit 2-hole behind Ohtani, provide protection for him with Freeman behind them, or Will Smith, whatever the way Dave Roberts choose, that is a lot of burden to carry, to say, hey, we need you to play shortstop for 162. Hey, we also need you to hit close to 300 and hit your usual 30 home runs and 100 RBIs, still 30 bases. That's a lot to ask on one person.
And play Gold Glove defense.
Yeah.
He's a finalist, which no surprise there. Again, I still think, numbers be damned, I think he's probably one of the best baseball players on the planet. And, hopefully he can get to this offseason and get his head cleared and either figure out that he's going to be at shortstop next year, or he's going to be somewhere else, and get himself, completely mentally prepared for that, because, the Mookie Betts that we've seen this year certainly isn't the one that we've grown used to seeing. And even as a Dodger, I want to see that guy back again. So, tomorrow night, Yamamoto and Gausman getting the ball for the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, and ex-Brave Kevin Gossman, who has been successful everywhere he's pitched except Atlanta, getting a chance to pitch in a World Series clinching contest. It's mind-boggling. But he's been solid at the very least for Toronto. So should be an interesting matchup against Yamamoto. And I don't think Yamamoto goes the distance this time, David.
Pens have been really dicey, to say the least. Dave Roberts does not trust his pen whatsoever. We saw how long he let Shohei Ohtani go in Game 4. And so obviously we saw Snell go a little ways yesterday in Game 5. He's not trying to open that bullpen door as much as he had in years past. He doesn't trust as many guys.
Well, and I think it's conventional wisdom. I just feel like every time you open that door, you don't know what's coming out. And so sometimes a guy that's out there on the mound, even if he may be a little depleted from a fatigue standpoint, might be better than whatever you're bringing in there. So I don't fault Doc for taking that conservative approach with his bullpen at this point. So we'll see how it goes. And again, Yamamoto has proven that he can do it. So it'll be interesting to see just how much leeway he gets tomorrow night. I'll be trying to keep up with it from the sidelines at Tullahoma. So we'll see how it goes. Away from the World Series, another couple of managerial positions apparently have been filled. Former Pittsburgh Pirates manager Derek Shelton has been named to succeed Rocco Baldelli in Minnesota. And 33-year-old Blake Butera has been named the new manager of the Nats. Again, 33-year-old Blake Butera. Obviously, there are going to be some players in that Washington dugout older than him. He just turned 33 in August. He will be the youngest major league manager since Frank Quilisi in 1972 was managing the Twins. So
yeah. And my two comment on those openings, Mo, obviously Atlanta and San Diego are teams that are going to be hopeful, obviously, to be in the playoffs next year. Washington and Minnesota, and clear rebuilds in my mind. So you have to go into those jobs knowing your expectations. I wonder if Derek Shelton would have taken the job. He probably would have anyway. I mean, there's only 32 of them across Major League, or across the world, rather. If they trade Byron Buxton this offseason or Pablo Lopez, that is a much different looking Minnesota Twins team than years past.
Yeah. But like you said, there's only 30 of them, so I guess you take it. But my question is, this guy was just fired by Pittsburgh over this past season, in the middle of the season. Yeah,
but you're not given so much at Pittsburgh. I mean, what do you want him to do with it? Like, I mean, literally, you say the same things about Miami and these other places. Like, what if you're not going to spend money in the team, you're going to blame the coach, the manager?
Yeah, right. Yep. So there you go. Meanwhile, Tony Vitello was introduced earlier today in San Francisco as their new manager, the former Tennessee coach. And as you mentioned, there are 3 managerial openings remaining at the major league level: the Padres, the Rockies, and the Braves. And it kind of feels like Atlanta's got their guy. They're just waiting on things to get over with between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. And since we are up against it here at the top of the hour, I won't get too deep into that. But hopefully when David and I get back together again, we can talk a little bit about the Braves managerial situation. So right now, let's go to a break as we wrap up hour number 1 of Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it is Throwback Thursday. We'll throw it back to a recent conversation we had with VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Our good friend VALAIR SHABILLA from 615 Soccer is gracious enough to join us here. As I get a look at him, he looks a lot different. The location, I guess, looks a lot different than the last time VALAIR was with us. I think he was poolside. I think he was getting ready to, perhaps hoist a trophy with the NSC as far as the finals of the U.S. Open Cup. But even though the backdrop looks totally different, we're nonetheless excited to have our good friend VALAIR. What's happening, brother?
It's a lot cooler this time around, but thanks for having me, guys. Last time I was really shocked because you or Mo were texting me to get on, and I get on, and it's like two different people, and I'm like, what is happening here? I was like, is this a prank? But I thought I handled it well, under pressure to perform with some heavy-hitting questions from the folks, so... I think everything went fine, and we're back on. You tried to have me a couple of weeks ago, I guess, or last week, but I was in San Diego enjoying another beautiful weather town, right? So here we are now.
Well, this is playoff time, so, I mean, in theory, you need to get a little dose of playoff weather. You can't be out in San Diego. You can't be down in sunny Austin. We need you primed for the conditions here. And, yes, we didn't mean to necessarily set you up, VALAIR. We knew that Calvin and David would take good care of you, and it sounds like they did. You guys enjoyed your time together. A lot has changed, though, in the sense that, yes, NSC hoisted the U.S. Open Cup that night. But then in the constant world of soccer, you immediately have to pivot and close out the regular season in MLS. And I guess first question, VALAIR, is when we evaluate just the MLS season up to this point, playoffs still to come, obviously, how would you maybe grade NSC on what you saw throughout the course of the regular season this year?
I think overall it's a huge success for Nashville. And I think I mentioned it last time actually I was on, is that regardless of what happened in the Open Cup final, this is probably one of, if not the best season MLS Nashville has ever had. And now with the Open Cup sort of victory, I do firmly believe that this is the best and most successful season in Nashville SC history. In the regular season, you look at where this team was when BJ Callahan took over to now, and even you look at it from beginning of the year to now, it's a completely different sort of league they're playing in at the moment. Coming into the year, I think you guys had me on, and I was saying, if you get into the playoffs, you get into a playing game, get into the playoffs, you're probably in a good shape in terms of a stepping stone. Now we're looking at a team that, fans were a little disappointed that they didn't get top four and get that home field advantage. So I think it's the conversation have shifted, the expectations have shifted, and that is all due to the work that the players and BJ Callahan have put together, due to how well and how successful they've been over the course of the year. Obviously, a year that had a couple of letdowns and setbacks, but at the end of the day, you're looking at a really, really good side that has taken a massive step, and honestly, all signs point towards an even bigger step happening next season.
Yeah, and Valair, I'm kind of in lockstep with you. Just watching this team, and not knocking what we saw from the previous coaching regime, because they did a lot of great things, especially in those formative years of early MLS days for NSC. But it felt like it was time for a change, and it felt like it was time to maybe see if they could take the next step. And if that was kind of how you critique things, I think this season, whatever happens going forward, has been a smashing success. You clearly did take that next step, at least in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for Nashville, they came into this more focused on the product on the pitch rather than just the results. And I think there was a huge sort of difference made from BJ Callahan from day one about the process versus the outcome. And what it comes down to is that, yes, this is a result-driven business, and you have to be getting results. You can't just have good performances and lose every game, because nobody's going to care about the good performances. But the thing is, if you are going to improve, it is easier to start improving your performances before you improve your results, because the results sometimes, it's a multitude of factors. Some of them are external, right? Referee called the penalty here, you got a red card here, whatever it may be, to where the actual process of day-to-day how Nashville SC is playing and training is the thing that BJ Callahan could control, and he did a really good job controlling that. And what he did is establish this cohesion, not just in the first team, but if you look at the academy product, you look at Huntsville, the second team, and obviously the first team in itself. And now you look at a team that is fully, the depth is much better. Look at what Mike Jacobs has done so far, building this team in BJ Callahan's vision. I think that's very important that he built a team for BJ Callahan. I think Mike Jacobs was building a team for Gary Smith when Gary Smith was in charge. And Mike Jacobs has had a huge role in this because he brought players that BJ will play. But not only that, Nashville is pretty much deep. Almost in every single position, there are two players available. And if you play either of them, you're probably in good hands. If not more players available per position. There's a couple of positions that still need a little bit more of a competition, but those were the biggest factors, because now Nashville has options, and it's not the starting 11, who in past years have been really good, but there's just no solution after that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, at least, of the Titans a little bit. Your 11 on either side may be okay, but if one piece falls off, it felt like we certainly saw a big drop-off with the Titans, and we do at times with NSC. Valair, we say all that, but this is a what have you done for me lately business. I guess I'm curious, handicap your chances. We get a interesting, if nothing else, twist with the way that Decision Day plays out, because you get a rematch immediately. Two key matches coming up versus Inter Miami, a team that has really kind of become, in many ways, a rival for NSC in the last year, 2 years.
Yeah, I mean it's been the Miami curse. I don't think Nashville has been able to beat Miami in the last 3 years. I believe it's been since the Leagues Cup final, where it was a draw and Miami won in penalties. Nashville drew the following 2 games and lost every single game following that. So it's been a pretty dire showing against Miami, home and away. And I think one of the things that kind of stand out is that the Leagues Cup final was the first time Nashville played Miami with Messi. And, I think there are a bunch of different opinions on the player and what he's brought to this league. One thing you can't deny is that he is the greatest of all time, literally the greatest soccer player to ever have walked this earth, playing for a team in Miami, or better yet, in Fort Lauderdale, soon to be in Miami after signing his extension. But I think Messi has to do mostly with that. I think a lot of these sort of, if you look at the game on Saturday, the Decision Day game, You look at a player that was pretty frustrated going into the first half, where Messi created the only pretty much couple of chances that Miami had and scored a goal himself, came into the second half, and you could see the switch in his head, and it was just like, yeah, Nashville can huff and puff all they want, and they can't, stop Messi. And that's really what it's going to come down to. I think Messi's going to be remembering, not just Messi, the entire, whoever was there last year. Inter Miami, if you remember last year, exited in the first round, this round, against Atlanta in a shocking manner. I mean, Atlanta was one of they were lucky to be in the playoffs, Atlanta, last year. And they lost to them. And I think that's on the brain of a lot of Miami players, and the Miami fans, of course. And I think that's going to play a factor going into this season, going to these playoffs. And look, losing 5-2 at home before starting a series against the same guys you just lost to 5-2 at home can't be a good thing. But according to the players, it's more of a motivation to kind of go out there and put in a better performance.
That's the way I would spin it. Talking with VALAIR SHABILLA from 615 Soccer. Yeah, if I'm in the clubhouse, I'm saying, all right, we played and had as about bad of a collapse as you could possibly have. But guess what? That was in the past. And if nothing else, we got a little motivation on our side. VALAIR, I do want to ask you, and we'll pick your brain here to kind of just get the true lay of the land. Give fans the final kind of format here as we go to 2 legs, and I'm assuming, is that international style, and give us, do away goals count more? Kind of lay all that out for us as best you can.
It is not a 2 legs series, believe it or not. To start off in the playoffs,
or best of 3, I guess.
The best of 3,
right?
yes. 2 are guaranteed. Obviously, if whoever wins 2 can go through. Goals do not matter. That's the first thing you need to remember. Any tie goes to penalties, and whoever wins in penalties is counted as a winner of that match. If you win 2 matches, you move on to the next round. Everything following this round is a single elimination with the higher seed hosting. That's how it's going to go all the way up to MLS Cup Final. It's a little bit of a weird format. I really do not like it, but that's what MLS is doing at the moment. So this best of 3 series is kind of this is their 3rd year doing it. It's an MLS only sort of thing. I don't know what got them doing it, but Miami obviously are the higher seed, meaning that they will host game 1 and game 3 if needed. Nashville is guaranteed a home game, which will be on Saturday next week, and that will be game 2. Again, whoever gets the first 2 wins goes through. Game 3 might not even be needed.
VALAIR, when you kind of look at how historic this season has been for Nashville SC, like you mentioned, what does a successful playoff run look like for them? Is this kind of a championship or bust season?
I really don't think it's a championship or bust, simply because they already got a trophy. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if it was any other team, and I mean any other team in the East, I would say, getting out of the first round and maybe thinking about a run then would be like exceeding expectations. Because it's Miami, if you push this series to a game 3, I think that's probably as good as you can do. And I mean that, I think Nashville SC has good players, and I think Nashville SC can win against Miami. It's not impossible, but the way Miami plays and the way, the way they are in this league, they are expected to win this cup regardless of sort of how they finish the regular season. They finished 4th in the East, which isn't, 3rd in the East, which isn't obviously their best sort of finish, but regardless of that, Miami played in the Club World Cup this year. Miami played in the Leagues Cup and waded all the way to the final. Miami played in the Champions Cup and made it all the way to the semifinal or quarterfinal. So they had a lot going on, and that's why their regular season form just wasn't as good. So I think because it's Miami, because it's playing against Messi, I would say if you can make it out of the Miami game, you are immediately a cup contender. Immediately. I mean, it changes a lot. So if you make it out of the series, you're immediately going to be a cup contender. To me, honestly, if they can push this series to a game 3, I would say this has been, again, the most successful season in Nashville history, and regardless of how this finishes.
And then I want to talk about Lionel Messi for a second. For a long time, it kind of felt like it was a 3-horse race between him and Cristiano Ronaldo and Pele for who people thought was the greatest soccer player of all time. But can you kind of put into context, what in your mind makes Lionel Messi the best soccer player of all time?
Yeah, I think to me it's just a couple of factors on the pitch. I think if you get the sort of soccer purist and the people who've watched soccer their whole life, and you sit them down and you show them Messi, and then you get somebody who has never watched soccer in their life, and you sit them down next to them and watch Messi, they will both agree that he's the best player on the pitch, and that's something because his talent is so apparent. And I think he falls into this category of like he's so good it makes it look so easy, but what he's doing is extremely hard. I've heard that being said about other sports and other players because what he's doing is not something that, simply we haven't seen before. If you want to look at the numbers and the stats, it is absolutely insane. Like that is he is in a different stratosphere by himself. And Ronaldo got close to him in many occasions. Cristiano Ronaldo, that is, got close to him on many occasions on the stats, but Messi surpassed him in pretty much all of them, except maybe a couple here and there. I think Ronaldo has more international goals, I believe. So, but all that said, his longevity as well, longevity in terms of not just playing, but being the best at what he's doing. I mean, this guy won the World Cup a few years ago with Argentina, in his mid-30s, and he looked like the best player in that World Cup, and people were writing him off already because he played for Miami and all that. He's gonna win MLS MVP. I'm almost positive at this point for the second time in a row, being only the second player to ever do that. When he was in PSG, he was one of the best players there, even though Neymar and Mbappe played with him. When he was in La Liga, even till his last season, he was, if not the best player, the top 3 in La Liga. So it's not just longevity as in like, oh, he's playing. It's longevity at how great he is. And this Argentina team, one of the best teams in the world, relies on him. He is such an important part of that Argentina team, regardless of his age, 36 or whatever it may be. He is still a very important part of this Argentina team. I think 37 actually, and he's that in itself, that one of the biggest teams in the world that just won the World Cup, him being this front and center for that team, just makes him. Nobody has reached these heights, I believe. In soccer, there's going to be subjectivity to it. Some people will like Cristiano Ronaldo more. Some people will like Maradona or Pele or whoever, your dad or whatever. But like at the end of the day, there is also like an objective sort of way of looking at it. And to me, if you look at it objectively, he is the greatest of all time.
Talking with VALAIR SHABILLA from 615 Soccer. And VALAIR, I heard somebody use this comp earlier this week after we saw Messi go nuclear in the second half versus NSC. They said it would be as if him playing in the MLS is kind of as if Michael Jordan were to go in his prime and play at a pickup at a local high school game. That's the part that I'm curious of, is how close or how much beyond the talent in the rest of the league is this guy, even at 38 years old?
If he was doing this just in MLS, I would agree with that. But go look at his Argentina games against really, really tough South American national teams. He's doing that there.
For sure. I'm just trying to get a grasp on just how much above the rest of the MLS, even now, he still is.
I think even at this point, he is above everybody, and I don't think anyone gets near him in terms of talent. I think what's kind of starting to show is that he isn't able to be the same player he was a few years ago, right? And I think what that comes up mostly in how much he sort of picks and chooses his moments. But that's again another thing for him, is that his talent is unimaginable. Like it's way above everybody else. But the thing that kind of teams can maybe affect him through would be to cut off the delivery to him, or cut off the sort of passes to him as much as possible, and focus on the other players who are feeding him throughout the match. And I think that maybe Nashville did really well in, I want to say, in the first 30 minutes of that game here at Geodis Park, maybe 25 minutes. They did really well doing that. I think he touched the ball, like the first time he touched the ball was like 7th, 8th minute probably, where he had like an actual dangerous chance. So I think that'll be what I would target, is more so the other players. I think for him specifically, he's definitely beyond anything we've ever had in MLS. But again, when you're the greatest player to ever play, it's not just MLS. He's just great wherever he goes, even at his age right now.
Absolutely, been on fire, and obviously had a ridiculous second half, and secured the Golden Boot. Valair, we brought you on and we asked all those questions about Messi, but now we kind of get back to, at least let's start with tonight. A win obviously is a dream scenario. A draw maybe, and then take your chances. A penalty kick sounds like it would be right up there. But walk us through, what must Nashville do, or what's their approach even into this match tonight at 7 o'clock?
I think it's a very simple one. I don't think you can sit and defend against Messi. I said that in the first game, which was not the first game of the playoff. The decision day, the last game, I should say. And I'll say it again. I don't think you can sit down and bunker down and hope to kind of keep Miami away. Miami is one of the best, if not the best, makes it the best because they have Messi, attacking teams in the league. So what you need to do is try to match them by maybe not slowing down their strengths, but maybe by hurting them in their weaknesses. And Miami has a glaring weakness in defense. Their center backs are very prone to red cards or stupid mistakes here and there. They've allowed 55 goals this season. I think it's like the 5th or 4th worst in the East. So they're not this juggernaut that's not conceding goals. They very rarely get clean sheets either. So what I would say is that embrace this sort of shootout nature of it, which is really a dangerous game when you're going against Messi, but there's really no other way to go about it. So if I'm Nashville SC, the way they started that first half of just being gung-ho and going for it, obviously that game was at home, so I don't expect it to be to that level. They were pressing. At one point, they had like 2 or 3 players in Miami's half when Miami had the ball. I don't think we're going to see it to that level, but I do expect Nashville to go out there and give it their best sort of chance of going for it. And if you saw that first half on decision day last week, that's what I'm expecting from Nashville. Maybe if you do get the lead like they did on Saturday last week, don't slow down. Go for the third, go for the fourth. And Nashville, by all accounts, should have been 4-1 up by the end of that half anyway, but they missed their chances. And they just cannot afford to do that. If you miss your chances again, like you did, it's almost a guarantee you're not going to make it to the next round.
Taking on Inter Miami, it's a best of 3. Valair corrected me thankfully earlier, and that was one thing that when you talk about the gung-ho nature, the fact there's no goal component to this, not a European tie, I kind of like that. You're right. Yeah, I mean, hey, why not go for it? If you lose 6-1, but you went out guns a-blazing, you're not really in a massive hole that you can't crawl out of. It's just one match.
And that's really why that last game result being 5-2 doesn't really matter a whole lot, because if you look at the way Nashville played, I think Nashville played really well. They just missed their chances. And even up to when Miami took the lead at 3-2, Nashville, I think Sam Sturridge either hit the post or forced a really, really hard save from the Miami keeper. And, if that goes in and it's 3-3, it's a completely different ball game, right? So I think you can take solace from that if you're a Nashville fan. And for the Nashville players, I think now to have an experience of playing these guys, I think many of whom grew up idolizing these guys. It's not just Messi, right? It's Busquets, who's a World Cup winner. It's Jordi Alba, who's a World Cup winner. It's Luis Suarez, who's one of the greatest strikers to ever play. They grew up idolizing these guys, and now they're playing against them. And I think there's a shock amount for a lot of the newer Nashville players, at least. I know they played Miami earlier in the year, but when it's fresh, like what happened, and we asked Eddie Taxeth about it too, and he said, we're not going to play nice. We're going to play ugly this time around. And he these are his words, not mine. And I think there is a little bit of an emphasis on that of like, play them at their own game. If you look at Busquets at any given moment of the game, he's in the referee's ear. The 90 minutes, he's in the referee's ear. So you have to match them at that level and that mentality. I know, we like to think of soccer players or professional sports as this like gentlemanly, high morals. No, it's win at all costs. I mean, you see it on the field, and that's what they have done. The Miami, the Big Four in Miami have done for 20 plus years now. So it's win at all costs for them, and it has to be for Nashville as well.
Should be a fun one tonight. It's at 7 o'clock. It is on Apple TV, but I've been told that's free. No paid subscription needed on Apple TV, which is always nice. You can also see it on FS1 as well as Fox Deportes. Valair, SHABILLA, hopefully the next time we talk to you, we're talking about maybe NSC, maybe they go on the road and get into penalties, shock everybody, and come back and host it next Saturday with a chance to close it out in the first round at home.
It's the beauty of the playoffs. I wouldn't say anything is impossible. You know, it's one of those things where anything can happen in the playoffs. And I'll say about the Apple TV thing, it's not just on Apple devices. I think that's a common misconception. You can download it on Android or your TV app, or it's just the Apple TV app. So you can download it on whatever device and watch the game for free. I would watch it regardless tonight, because even if you want Nashville to lose, I guess, or whatever, I think it's just going to be a good sort of soccer game. And throughout the playoffs, I believe the whole thing is free too. So there'll be some good games to watch as well.
Looking forward to it. We always enjoy our time with our 615 soccer friend, VALAIR SHABILLA. VALAIR, enjoy the match tonight. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch up with you real soon, partner.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome. This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now from extrapointsmb.com, it is MB, Matt Brown. Man, and we are definitely connoisseurs of backgrounds, and I'm sure we've said it before, but I love yours. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Appreciate your flexibility here, and it's great to be back.
Oh, no, man. We appreciate you taking some time. There's been so much going on across the college athletics landscape, and some of it football, some of it off the field. But I've wanted to get a hold of you for a minute, Matt. And since I initially wanted you on this topic, the topic has kind of changed somewhat. What is the future of the Ohio Valley Conference?
Man, this is a really good question. And when I wish I had a great radio answer, because even before the commissioner decided to resign last week, in part due to health challenges in her family, I was hearing from ADs and administrators at campuses throughout that league that there were some real challenges in trying to keep everybody together. Part of that is you have some schools that have recently reclassified from Division II and have smaller budgets than maybe some other institutions, and you have a few schools, particularly here in my home state of Illinois, that are operating with very different financial realities than maybe some other schools. And this isn't like this. We're not saying that anybody in the OVC is like Ohio State or Texas or something. But if you're trying to maybe come up with baseline scheduling rules about how many bye games your basketball teams can play, or what kind of RPI or net rating are we all shooting for, and some schools are prepared to make that financial commitment and some aren't, that is going to cause tension and make it harder to have league unity. I think the other really big problem right now is you've had a couple of teams leave. You've had you have two others that a lot of folks in the industry think are about to leave in Southeast Missouri here in Tech. And there's just not any easy replacement institutions. We have a moratorium on schools reclassifying from Division II into D1 right now. There's really not any that have the interest and the funds to make that transition from within the OVC's typical footprint. And the league's efforts to recruit existing Division I institutions to join have not even been close to successful. My understanding is that there's a lot of people have taken calls. Not very many people have taken second calls. So could the league continue to exist for another 4 or 5 years with 7 members? Potentially. Could a wrinkle appear somewhere that I don't know about and my sources don't know about? Unquestionably. But they're in a very challenging spot right now with 4 other FCS leagues nearby that I think would love to bolster their membership.
Yeah, to bring anybody up to speed who may not be, Tennessee Tech announced 2 or 3 months ago that they are going to the Southern Conference beginning next year, 2026-27. Tennessee Tech will be in the Southern Conference, and right now they're playing football like a Southern Conference school right now, ranked number 7 in the country in FCS. There's been rumblings that UT Martin might be doing something.
Forgive me. I said Tech when I meant Martin. UT Martin and Southeast Missouri are the two that I have heard quite a bit about contemplating a move.
Where is it the Missouri Valley? Is it this United Athletic that Austin Peay and Eastern Kentucky are in?
Yes, sir. It's the UAC is what I've been told is most likely.
Okay. And then, when you look at what's left, like you said, I mean, Lindenwood came up from D2 a few years ago. Western Illinois has kind of been in that no man's land for a little bit in your state of Illinois. But, when you talk about the traditional footprint of the Ohio Valley Conference, it's crazy. If UT Martin were to leave, Tennessee State is the only team in Tennessee, or the only program in Tennessee that would be in the Ohio Valley Conference. And I mean, I know I'm dating myself when I say this, but MTSU, Austin Peay, Tennessee Tech, UT Martin, those were mainstays in that conference, once UT Martin came up from D2 years and years ago. And to think that Tennessee only has one, and the one thing you don't want to be, Matt, in this situation, I don't think, is you don't want to be Washington State and Oregon State when, the last team out of the OVC turn off the lights. I mean, you don't want to be that. So Tennessee State has got to be looking for something at this point, and they're only in the biggest town in the conference, right?
I have to imagine everybody is trying to do their due diligence right now. And this is kind of one of the things that fans might not always understand. But if you're a mid-major, even if you've been in your league for 50 years, 60 years, if somebody reaches out, you generally have to at least take the phone call. I'm sure there are presidents and people in the OVC that want this league to survive another 40 years. But those same people, after they give that statement, are going to go check their phone to go see if the Missouri Valley called them, right? Or the Horizon or anybody else. And you have to, because you're exactly right. You don't want to be the school with that's last in musical chairs. Now, I don't know if there's more than one institution here that would be at risk of not having a home. It might be an awkward home. It might be a home that's with schools they don't have much of a history with, but these things change all the time, right? Like you're right. I remember doing this when MTSU was in the OVC, or East Tennessee was in this league. Who knows what the next 10 years are going to bring? I would be nervous though if I was Tennessee State, if I was Southern Indiana, if I was somebody else, because the future is uncertain.
And to be realistic, Matt, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference and the Southwestern Athletic Conference, I mean, those are the obvious, for a number of reasons, for Tennessee State. But, the devil is kind of in the details in that situation too, right?
Sure. I want to be completely honest with you, gentlemen. I will not get on this show and in this camera and profess to know the inner workings and the historical politics about why Tennessee State isn't in one of those leagues. The good Lord has not blessed me with the same amount of melanin as maybe other institutions, folks that are much closer to these schools and some of this space. And that is a story I'd love to hear from somebody else. I can understand on paper why that would make a lot of sense. I can understand why maybe the SWAC might not want to expand a little bit more. There are some folks in the HBCU universe that want to be in the best league they possibly can, whether that includes PWIs, and there are some that really want to be in an HBCU league. And I feel like I can't say what's best or what isn't for that school, only that I think that they're going to have options no matter what it is that they want to do.
And then, Matt, it feels like this kind of resulted back in the day, obviously, when the Pac-12, as you guys mentioned, kind of dissolved away, and those teams like USC and UCLA, et cetera, joined the Big Ten. You had to think, though, that there was going to be this trickle-down effect per se, and affect these FCS schools and these conferences where teams are going to start to reconsider where they were and relocating to bigger conferences or better conferences, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, we can go back and look just a couple of years ago when Texas and Oklahoma went to the SEC, and we had a good 18 months of directly connected realignment decisions that I think you could pretty much draw a straight line all the way to the dissolution of the WAC and created the UAC. Like, that doesn't happen if Sam Houston and New Mexico State don't leave for CUSA earlier, which caused changes here, which caused changes there. We have movements at the FCS and 1AAA level that are also independent of what happens with the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or some of these leagues, because you also have schools that want to make changes because they want to better optimize their basketball net ratings, because they want to be with schools that are more likely to spend their house money at a similar level and are more aligned on what it means to compete at a high level at this point. And I think that will continue to change. It's not there's no one's getting big TV money, whether you're in the OVC or the SoCon or the Southland or the A-Sun, but that doesn't mean that there might not be compelling reasons to look at other options.
Right. Matt Brown of extrapointsmb.com. And if you're not following it, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but at any rate, Matt, if you are a fairly accomplished college football coach, would you want the Louisiana State job?
I wouldn't want it in a cycle where I could also potentially get Florida or Penn State and shoot, who knows, in 6 weeks, Florida State might open. Some other SEC jobs might open. And it's a difficult thing, because I understand why there are folks that say this is one of the very best jobs in college football. Louisiana produces so much elite talent, and they're the only big school in town. And you have the entire state that wants to support you. You have this great history. You've won multiple national championships in our lifetime. The fact that you are in a situation now where you have a governor who I think is trying to cosplay as Huey Long without everything else that came with being Huey P. Long, and not really having a permanent athletic director. You're going to have a university president starting next week who's not going to be terribly entrenched. And that all creates a problem, because if there's one thing that's really important, one of the things, I guess, that's really important to coaches, and certainly to athletic directors as they think about what job they want to take, isn't just, can I get enough talent to this area? It's, who's my boss going to be? How do I know that I'm going to be supported if I go 7-5 in 1 year? Who do I go to if I need X, Y, or Z? How am I going to be judged in this role? And if you're stepping into a place where on paper your boss is one person, but in reality your boss is another person, and that boss might not know ball at all. Yeah, in a world where you have other jobs opening, I unquestionably think that's going to hurt their candidate pool. If the second best job opening was Virginia, LSU is going to get a great ball coach because someone's going to talk themselves into getting fired and making $12 million a year. But when there's 4 or 5 of these jobs, don't be shocked if LSU decides, hey, we want John Summerall, and John Summerall goes somewhere else.
And, Matt, to kind of extend that point, if you're a guy, I mean, Lane Kiffin is the hot name of college football right now. He's going to get a pay raise regardless of where he ends up over the next couple months. Do you consider that and be like, I can make my own legacy here at Ole Miss and be the first Lane Kiffin and bring a championship here? Or, maybe go follow in somebody's footsteps at Florida or LSU where, you're kind of chasing those goats of past, if that makes sense.
It does. And so much of this really does depend on the person. I think one of the interesting things about where college football is now compared to 5 or 6 years ago, before NIL and certainly before House, is I think you can make an argument that you could potentially win a title at more places than you did before. You don't have to go undefeated to make the college football playoff. You just have to have a certain amount of depth and a really good quarterback and really good edge rushers. And you can get that at Ole Miss. Like this idea that Ole Miss right now is this tiny little mom and pop shop without much of an operating budget and no money to pay players. I think all 3 of us know that's ridiculous. You're able to bring in a transfer portal class and high school classes that are not super dissimilar from what you'd be able to get at LSU or Florida. So at that point, it comes down to personal preference. And certain people are going to look at Oxford, Mississippi, Gainesville, and Baton Rouge and have different opinions about where they'd rather live. But you can win a title at all 3 of those places now. I'm not sure that was true in, say, 2018.
Matt Brown of extrapointsmb.com. Matt, you're kind of singing out of the same songbook that I was earlier this week. If Lane Kiffin stays in Oxford, another 5-7 years, they're putting up a statue on campus for him. If he goes to LSU or Florida, he may not be there another 5 or 7 years. I mean, that's just it's just the difference in expectations and to your point, what do you want individually? I mean, do you want and maybe you are the next Brian Kelly and you're walking away from there with $53 million at the end of it all, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. So it's just wild to me, the whole thing as we sit here in 25, particularly where we're talking about already, it ain't even Halloween yet, and we've already got 10 coaching vacancies at the FBS level.
And we had a hiring today. We've had an extension today. There's gonna, I'm sure there'll be more of those over the coming weeks. I think the other thing that's worth thinking about with all this too is fortunes can change very quickly. The idea of giving Brian Kelly a gigantic contract was seen as risky back when he was hired away from Notre Dame, but not crazy risky. Brian Kelly had won everywhere that he's been all over the Midwest, from Division II all the way at Notre Dame for that matter. And the thought was, if you could just get some slightly better players, he would be fine. And then he wasn't, because it turns out Brian Kelly's a big jerk and it wasn't going to fit in with the booster and donor and fan culture of that particular part of South Louisiana. I think another example to think about here is look at a guy like Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, who did nothing but win at Cincinnati, was an outstanding defensive coordinator at lots of places, had a great record of hiring coordinators himself, dragged a G5 team into the college football playoff. And on paper, it looked like that was a perfect fit between at Madison. And that team is god awful right now. And if Wisconsin had the money, they would have fired him yesterday. They don't, because they're poor. But it hasn't worked out. You can be a great coach at 2 or 3 other places. We all remember when Billy Napier was like at Louisiana. We remember what he was like at other places, and then it didn't. So all of this is to say, like, if you're this hypothetical Lane Kiffin, there's one thing we know about the Lane Kiffin story is that consistency doesn't necessarily go along with this kind of guy. And maybe you stay and they're ready to build a statue for you now, In 4 years, maybe they're throwing mustard bottles at you in Oxford instead of Tennessee, right? You never know.
To your point about Fickle in Wisconsin, though, at this point, Matt, if you are on the fence about whether you want to make a move with your coach in this cycle where you're looking at so many guys that are out there and so many jobs that are available, do you maybe hold on to your guy another year, even as you feel like, we really need to make a move, but we can't get into this pool with these sharks?
I think that's definitely happening. I think that's part of why you saw Florida State put out a statement saying like we're not firing anybody right now. It's part of why and NC State. Hey, there's as my daughter makes a cameo here behind us.
Oh, hey Harris.
Yeah, and NC State's making that same kind of conversation. You don't want to be the 7th or 8th most attractive gig, especially because there's not 7 or 8 really established, experienced candidates right now. I think it's pretty certain that we're going to see a name, Power 4 level job, hire a guy that's a coordinator somewhere else or someone we're not talking about right now, and that person's going to get $7.5 million. There, a lot of this is kind of a crapshoot, and I try to think about that as I do my own work, because there's lots of examples of someone that that seemed like a great hire on paper not working out, and sometimes you have a guy like Dabo who looked like a total ridiculous hire when Clemson brought him on. Here's this young, wide receivers coach who doesn't know anything about X's and O's and was selling insurance not that long ago. And then he goes and wins multiple national championships. So much of this really is about fit and about alignment between administrators and donors and community and current roster. And that's a difficult thing to project.
Talking about a little bit lighter subject here, Matt. Delaware State, Norfolk State at the Link tonight. How big a deal is this?
You know what? Fellas, I think this is the first time in my career, and I started doing this professionally full-time in 2012. I think this is the most I've ever been aware of Delaware State football. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful or anything, because if you look at like the Sagarin ratings, this was typically one of the schools that was near the very bottom, and now they've become quite competitive. This idea of we just need to go hire a famous NFL guy can definitely fall short. We can think of a couple examples where that strategy has not worked, but it worked out great for Tennessee State and Eddie George, who I think has been pretty competent at Bowling Green. And I think there's some positive signs for both Delaware State and Norfolk. I hope they're both able to enjoy a little bit of consistency before their coaches go off to do other things.
I guess we would be remiss if, since it's gone in this direction, what are your thoughts about the situation in Boulder here over the next bit? And I guess it helps that maybe Florida State has said we're not going to make a move, but how does Dion line up for 2026, do you think?
Honest to God, I think that the biggest question really is less about what's on the field and more about what Dion wants to do and with his health. It was one thing for us all to kind of joke last year about how this guy's not traveling anywhere for recruiting. He's just going to be here while his kids are here, and then he's going to bounce. Then he stayed. But if the man's got problems with his feet, if he's dealing with cancer, if he's got to go to the bathroom during games and everything, and he's dealing with some pretty significant health challenges, the most important thing is that he's healthy. And if he's able to get healthy and he and his family and everybody feels good about what he's doing, I think that he'll be able to stay at Colorado and with his own personal magnetism still produce good enough teams. This squad's obviously a step back, but I think they're a better team than they were in week 1 and 2. And their next great Buffalo quarterback is on this roster. Which one of the 3 it is, I'm not necessarily sure yet, but I think there's some pieces. I'm not so much worried about Dion leaving for another job as I am. I don't know if he's going to want to coach another 5 years.
Matt, really quickly before we let you go, you kind of mentioned just the candidate cycle for college football and maybe having coordinators, step up to take one of these power forward jobs that are open. It seems like Brian Hartline at Ohio State is a name that's always been talked about. Such a great recruiter. I mean, what Ohio State might be, or it probably is, wide receiver you. Does this feel like the opportunity maybe where he finally gets one of those cracks at a job and somebody tries to land him?
Maybe. Brian Hartline's from Ohio. He graduated from Ohio State, played at Ohio State. He bleeds Ohio State stuff. And this is his first year calling plays and serving as a coordinator. And I'll be honest, as someone that's watched a lot of Ohio State football, that's where I went to school. If there's an Achilles heel with this team or a question mark about this team, it's been with offensive consistency. This is the best defense in the country. And so the Buckeyes don't need to score more than 2 touchdowns a game to feel pretty good about where they're going. But they're not running the ball particularly well. And they're not being efficient in the red zone by any means. And look, that's okay. Hartline's a younger guy, and he's growing into that particular role. I think it would be risky to take a guy who has only been a coordinator for 1 year and whose biggest documented advantage is truly elite recruiting at one position, and say this person is absolutely ready to be a Power 4 head coach. And quite frankly, I think to be a coordinator at Ohio State's a better job than being a G5 head coach or something right now. Hartline's going to make more money than he has taken over Toledo or like Ohio next year or anything. I'm sure schools will call, and he'll probably eventually leave Columbus because I don't think Ryan Day's going anywhere unless they lose to Michigan and the Indianapolis Colts drop a gigantic bag on him or anything. But if I was a Penn State fan, I don't think I would be calling to hire Hartline for that job.
Matt Brown, again, you can find him on Twitter at Matt Brown EP. His website, Extra Points. extrapointsmb.com. There we go. Great stuff, just like what you just heard here over the last little bit and then some. Matt, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon and look forward to getting you on again soon.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Absolutely. Let's take our final break here on this Throwback Thursday. Come back and wrap things up with the grab bag here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll be right back.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
It's the final segment here on Throwback Thursday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. The Nashville Predators they dropped a tough one a couple of nights ago. They go on the road tonight to Philadelphia. Preds 4-5-2, Philadelphia 5-3-1. It's a 6 o'clock puck drop. You can see it on FanDuel. And not only did the Preds go 2-3 on this last homestand, but they have now lost 6 of their last 8. I mean, it still doesn't feel like 2024-25, but it doesn't feel great.
Very Jekyll and Hyde per se. They got off to a really good start on opening night at Bridgestone Arena. But this is kind of what Ann Kimmel has told us. They're going to be up and down all year long. Obviously, Andrew Burnett, I guess, survived kind of by the skin of his teeth last year, per se. But this is just kind of what we thought. I'm not going to necessarily have the most in-depth knowledge. I've not watched every single minute of hockey for them, but this is just kind of who we thought they were. And so we'll see what they can do if they can right the ship in the city of brotherly love tonight before they come back home, I believe, on Saturday.
A lot going on in Philadelphia. Again, we just mentioned Delaware State and Norfolk State playing at Lincoln Financial tonight. So I don't know how much crossover there is between those two audiences, but a lot going on if you're in Philadelphia this evening. In Miami, big Thursday night football matchup as the Ravens take on the Dolphins. Baltimore going in at 2-5, and with their guy not under center, but in shotgun, Lamar Jackson is expected to play tonight against the 2-6 Dolphins, 7:15 kickoff on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Calvin and I discussed the Ravens yesterday. Lamar taking away all their ping pong tables and video games in the locker room, trying to get them to go on a run.
And if I could have had the TVs taken out, I'd have had them out too.
Absolutely, but nobody's really run away with that NFC North. It seems like it's very much wide open, even though the Ravens' record is several games below 500. It feels like with Lamar healthy and Derrick Henry in that backfield, the formula is there for them to make a run. Can they figure out that defense, though? Those Ravens teams of the past, of lore, were defensive juggernauts. This Ravens team, not so much.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's a little surprising, right? I mean, the fact that they have fallen off the way they have defensively.
Yeah, they have one of the highest paid players in the NFL, Kyle Hamilton, former Notre Dame alum. Shout out Kyle. At safety, he's a really good player, but it takes more than one, obviously, on a unit of 11. So they have to figure that out, and John Harbaugh will have to do that trick.
Basketball Hall of Fame has announced its 2026 class of inductees, and among them will be a name familiar in Knoxville, Candace Parker. And it's one of those, what took, but Candace Parker goes in along with Elena Deladon, Minnesota Lynx Burks among 8. So but again, feels like what took so long.
I mean, Tennessee basketball is associated, the Lady Vols, with this state. You think about Pat Summitt and all she did for college basketball, particularly the women's game here in the state. And when you think about those Tennessee teams, I think for me, the first person that comes to mind, Candace Parker.
Yeah. So and not just collegiately either, but did it all in the WNBA to follow up on a stellar college career as well. So again, she will be in that 2026 induction class. 25 induction class has announced that this season at Union University will be his last. Franklin Road Academy graduate Mark Campbell retiring as women's coach at Union down in Jackson to focus on his athletic director duties at that school. Inducted earlier this year into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. He's stepping down. The quickest women's basketball coach to 500, 600, and 700 career victories. And if he can win 25 games in fewer than 33 games, he will be the quickest ever to 800 as well. So congrats to Coach Campbell stepping away at Union. Gonna focus on the AD role out there. That's gonna do it for Main Street Sports today here on this Throwback Thursday. Come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Join Wade and I. We will see y'all then.